A nation is a group of people who believe they belong together. It's a sociological and psychological term, not necessarily political. Francisco Franco, the military leader that was key to the military uprising, won the Civil War, and Franco became dictator from 1939 until his death in 1975. After his death, Juan Carlos took the throne over his father, who was never given the throne, and part of that was to move Spain towards a democracy. So in '77 were the first elections, and the Spanish Constitution of 1978 brought together a democratic Spain with, and I quote the Constitution, "Spain is a state of nations." That phrase clearly indicated the recognition of different nationalities, not only Catalonia and the Basque Country, but also places like Castilla. Catalonia historically has been different than Spain, and that includes economically, politically, and as well socially and culturally. Catalan is a distinct language. It's a Romance language that is quite different than Spanish, although of the same Romance tradition. The desire for independence grows out of the fact that Catalonia as an autonomous community, one, is based on linguistic and cultural differences. Two, economically, Catalonia has always contributed more economically to the Spanish state than it's received in goods and services. That's part of the background to this story. You find it in other regions and other countries. But there's a simple question of, if you're paying more than you're receiving, there's an incentive not to be a part of the country. And add that the cultural divisions, so there are economic explanations, okay? There's cultural explanations, and let me throw in one more explanation. That is, Spain in 1986 became a member of the European Union, and as a member of the European Union, it is part of an integrated market of which has always benefited, back to the trade of Catalonia, including not only the trade we've been talking about, of textiles, of lace, and things like that have a historical part, but things like tourism, and particularly the Olympics in Barcelona and other activities that have encouraged tourism in Catalonia has only added to their economic strength. It's been fascinating as I watched the news to see in downtown Barcelona, with all the Catalan flags waving, that one of the things that we have seen is Scottish flags in the background. What does that have to do? And that's part of my point, which is that one of the issues of Catalan independence or autonomy or integration into Spain has always been what is very much the issue of what is the role of regions within the state structure of Europe. The autonomous community elections in Spain and in Catalonia have in fact produced governments in which a majority support independence. There are political parties within the Catalan system, not the Spanish system, but within Catalonia itself that vary from left to right, but part of that left-right variation also depends on, do they support remaining with Spain, or would they like greater autonomy or even independence? And so you find examples in all four of those quadrants, if you divide it like this, in which most recently a set of parties came together that supported Catalan independence. The Constitution of 1978 that I referred to as part of the transition to democracy after the Franco period is critical to the story because, as it's phrased, a state of nations, it recognized that the Spanish state is the only entity that can have sovereignty, not the regions. The institutions created to follow that up include the central government as well as a constitutional court. So recently when the Catalan autonomous community, its parliament, declared independence and held the referendum, the job of the government is to execute the law. The interpretation of the law was with the Constitutional Court, and the Spanish Constitutional Court said to the Catalan government, you cannot do that. It's against the law.
Les informo que hoy he disuelto el Parlamento de Cataluña y que el próximo 21 de diciembre se celebrarán elecciones autonómicas en esa comunidad autónoma.
Enforced by the Spanish government. How do they enforce it? Article 155 of the Constitution says if an autonomous community's government begins to violate the law or doesn't follow the rule of law, it's the responsibility of the central government to take over powers. It's interesting that once Article 155 was implemented and the Spanish government under Prime Minister Rajoy took over control of Catalonia, that the government, part of the government fled, including the president, really a prime minister, the president of the Catalan government. Where did he go? Where is he now? He's in Brussels.
I am not here in order to demand asylum, political asylum. This is not a Belgian question. I'm here in Brussels as a capital of Europe.
The argument that the Catalan leadership, and particularly Prime Minister Puigdemont, has been arguing is, well, respect Catalan democracy. So now we're in this situation where the Catalans say respect our referendum because now they voted against.
Ahir també el Consell de Ministres espanyol va acordar el cessament de tot el govern de Catalunya, la intervenció del nostre autogovern i la dissolució del Parlament. Són decisions contràries a la voluntat expressada pels ciutadans del nostre país a les urnes, que sap perfectament que en una societat democràtica són els parlaments els qui escullen o cessen els presidents.
At the end of the day, the importance of all this are questions about, yes, one, liberal democracy. Do people have a right to self-determination? But two, how we overlap governance with formal structures such as states. And anytime we do this, we have to ask questions about the relationship of the central state to the component parts of that state. In Spain, it has to do with 17 autonomous communities, some of which are based upon both historical, economic, and cultural foundations.
Seguirem treballant per construir un país lliure, per garantir una societat que tingui menys injustícies, més igualtat, més solidaritat i amb més fraternitat amb tots els pobles del món, començant pels pobles d'Espanya, amb els quals volem vincular-nos des del respecte i el reconeixement mutus.
From a comparative perspective, what's playing out in Spain is about democracy. It's about self-government. It's about cultural, linguistic, and political independence, autonomy, or centralization. That's the question.